Welcome to Season 7 of the Charity Matters podcast. I'm Heidi Johnson, nonprofit founder, lifelong helper, and your host. I've been interviewing modern-day heroes for over a decade with my blog, and I'm so excited to share these inspiring conversations on our podcast. Join me as we learn the challenges and stories of innovators, entrepreneurs, and modern-day heroes who set out to solve the problems of humanity. Have you ever heard of the phrase posse? I think when we think of a posse, we think of a small group of people. Today's guest, Debbie Beal, is the founder of the Posse Foundation, and she has taken that word and revolutionized not only what it means, but what it's doing to make the world better, one posse and one student at a time. Join us for an inspirational conversation about how one person can truly change the world. I am so excited today to welcome Debbie Beal to Charity Matters for Season 7 premiere. Welcome, Debbie. We're so happy you're here.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Really excited to learn so much about your incredible work. And let's just dive right in. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what the Posse Foundation does?
Yeah, I'd love to. And I hope a lot of your listeners have heard of Posse. We started in the 1980s when a student who had dropped out of college said, "I never would have dropped out if I had my posse with me." And we thought, well, that's a brilliant idea, right? Why not send a posse, a team of kids together to college so they could back each other up?
It's brilliant, right? The best ideas are that simple.
Yeah. So I don't know. You could ask your question.
Well, no. So your mission is to send posses.
Right. The idea was that if you send people together in a team, they can not only back each other up when times get rough, but they can begin to form critical mass, right? 10 students in every class, you get 40 students on a campus. That's a model of integrated diversity right there. Wow. And also kind of a catalyst for positive change in a community. So our goal, what Posse is we are a national college success and leadership development program. And the ultimate big, carrot at the end is that we're building a leadership network for the United States that more accurately reflects the real diversity of the American population. And why are we doing that? Is, you look at the United States Senate, it's almost 90% white. It's only 25% women. Or you look at the Fortune 500 CEOs or the Section 16 executives or college presidents. Almost any industry in any field it's very homogeneous when you look at who's leading. Right. So Posse is trying to contribute to a more diverse leadership.
It's so amazing what you do. But so where were you and what was that light bulb moment? Because a lot of people have great ideas and think, oh, wow, okay, yeah, this student said this to me, but they don't act on it, Debbie. They don't do anything. There's something that happened. There's a path. There's a journey. There's a couple of boxes that are dominoes that fall that say, I am going to change this, or I can do that. So what was that?
Yeah. And you're right. There's lots of ideas, but when you have the opportunity to invest in a really good idea and you don't take it, it's your miss, right? It's the world's miss. And so this idea was not my idea, right? It comes from a student who said this. I never would have dropped out if I had my posse, but being in the right place at the right time. I was 23 years old. Wow. I was only out of college for, just a short amount of time. And here I am with this big idea. It wasn't my idea, but here I am,
executing.
Helping to bring it to life. And Vanderbilt University was the first university to take a chance. How do you get somebody to say, well, we'll try that. when you have no track record. That's not that easy. And luckily, there were people at Vanderbilt who saw that this could be a really valuable thing for their institution, right? In the 1980s, Vanderbilt was very white, very Southern, very wealthy. All the women wore dresses to the football games. And, how are they going to get kids from the Bronx to want to go there and stay there?
Right.
So
Right.
they tried it.
Wow. That's amazing. So talk to me because, I've been interviewing nonprofit founders for a long time. And as I said to you before we jumped on, we are a unique breed. But at the end of the day, we're entrepreneurs. Now they're calling us all sorts of different things, social impact, social warriors, all these different social entrepreneurs. But we're entrepreneurs. We have an idea, or we hear an idea, or we want to work on an idea, and we decide to roll up our sleeves and do it. So you're 23 years old. At 23, you're just navigating, doing your own laundry and figuring out your bills and figuring out how you're going to do anything, let alone starting a business that relies on the kindness of others, which is a really
Right.
challenging business model, as we all know.
Mhm.
So what were the challenges as you're starting to do this? Because you are building an enormous community network, you're changing the way people think. You're so far ahead of the curve.
It's such a great question and such a great perspective that only you would have, right? It's you understand. I think people devalue the work that goes into creating a nonprofit that's trying to do good in the world, right?
Correct.
For some reason, we don't see it as an enterprise that you would invest in the way you would invest in a for-profit business. But it is. And
It
you
is.
have to do everything well if you want it to succeed. And that includes building a board of people who are experts and building a network of donors and building an infrastructure that makes sense. What I always say to other people who are starting a nonprofit is know your non-negotiables, right? And if you
Oh,
can stand behind your mission and
right.
not compromise, understand where you draw the line, what are your non-negotiables, then you're much more likely to succeed. And so, and I honestly think that's about integrity also. If you just follow the money, or if you you're not strong in front of people who have big opinions about what you're doing,
Right.
then you end up diluting the work.
And none of us do this. No one, at least I have yet to meet someone, maybe they exist, but I have yet to meet a nonprofit founder that got into this to make money. To my knowledge,
Right.
there is not one that exists. That's just not our what motivates us. It's not what makes us get up in the morning. And like you said, the work that we do, we're not trying to manufacture something. We have the backs of humans on us at night that we don't sleep because we think someone isn't go to college, someone isn't going to get fed, someone isn't going to get educated, someone isn't going to have healthcare. Whatever it is that our organization does, that's a huge that humanity that we carry with us is a unique thing that most entrepreneurs do not carry the way
Right.
we do.
And don't you feel that it's worth that there's value in that equal to being paid? So I often hear people who are in corporate for their whole careers wish that they could come and volunteer or do something with Posse because they're missing that piece of their lives. They
Right.
don't have that.
Right. Well, and to your point, if we were CEOs, which we are, if we were CEOs of a business, the way we'd be paid is significantly different with the way that we are paid. You and I are CEOs, and we could go into corporate America and be a CEO because we've already been doing it, and we've been doing it with a harder business model, actually. We could probably, open a can of whoop ass or two if we were CEOs, but we're executive directors, which is somehow, yeah, or presidents, founders, whatever. It doesn't in the world equate the same, and we're making the world better, right? Or we're trying really hard.
Don't you love what you do?
Every day. Yeah,
Me
absolutely.
too. Me
How
too.
can how can you
How could you
not?
not?
How can you not? You can't do this work. You cannot do this work if you don't love it. You
Yeah.
just can't. So speaking of that, what fuels you? Because, we all have really busy lives. We wear a lot of hats in these jobs with meeting with funders and donors and building community and connection and the programs that we run, and the list goes on and on. But we still have hard days like everybody else. We still have laundry. We still have life. We still have stuff we got to deal with. We still have the holidays and we get events and things we're doing, and it can be kind of overwhelming sometimes. There are days it can be because of that humanity, I think, and that responsibility. It can feel particularly overwhelming versus kind of a regular job. What fuels you to keep going in those moments?
Yeah. Every day that I walk into the office, I walk past a row of posters that are just our graduates the day they graduate.
Oh,
They're in their caps and gowns. It's portraits, one after the other, and they're smiling, and they're the most beautiful photographs that I've ever seen. And it makes me so happy every day that I walk past those photographs. And I know all their names, right? It's Robert
oh.
and Gia, and I'm not telling all their names, but it's Robert
Well,
and
there's 12,000
Shirley
of them,
and
so
Veronica, and it's one after the other. And I feel like, okay, this is why we have Posse, right?
I mean,
They're becoming doctors and CEOs. They're running for office. They're in government. They're starting their own nonprofits. We've got now, since 1989, we've sent over 12,000 students to college, and they have won, what is astounding to me, they have won $2 billion in scholarships from our partner schools. They graduate at rates of 90%. And then, as I'm trying to convey to the world, they go on to be the leaders that we so need. And what makes them different as leaders is that they are thinking about equity and inclusion in a way that we sometimes miss in the boardroom or in the rooms where decisions are being made. And we have a very polarized society right now where all we do is fight. We can't agree. We're attacking each other.
mhm.
And how valuable is it to have someone walk into the room who knows how to have conversations that are productive, who knows how to build community? We don't have that.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do that. So I feel like that motivates me. When I was 23, I was not motivated by much more than figuring out how I could keep a job and pay my rent. And today I'm much more aware of the impact that a program like this can make on our society and on our world. And that motivates me now.
Well, and so talk to me about impact. I obviously there's fantastic statistics and the graduation rate and the amount of leaders you're putting in there. But impact to me is a double-edged sword. It's a word that I love and hate because we do have to give these statistics. We do have to tell our donors. We do have to have an ROI, return on investment. People want to invest on a winning horse and bet on the right organization, and that's all good and fine. But it's impossible to measure
Mm.
that leadership. I run a youth leadership organization as my day job. Measuring leadership is impossible. The nonprofit that I run is a youth leadership organization. Measuring a life that's changed that comes from poverty or is an underserved community and goes on to become a doctor and change the trajectory of his life, his family's life, and the ripple effect of that one person on that wall. It's impossible to measure that. So talk to me about impact besides the numbers, and it just that greater context, because you really are you're changing the world, you're changing the way people view different communities, and the impact of that is just almost mind-blowing.
It's I know what you're saying when you say it's impossible to measure impact when you're talking about developing leaders. And yet we have to. We have to try to
Right.
convey what the impact is, because you're investing in a program where the return on your investment is not more money, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
creating opportunity for people. It's making the world better. I tell this story, and I always tell the same story because it's an important origin story. But it gives you this sense of, oh, there's the impact. And it's a story of somebody who was in the very first posse that we ever had, right? Recruited in 1989.
Wow.
And her name is Shirley, and was this Dominican kid from Brooklyn. Her dad drove a yellow taxi. She was going to be the first person in her family to go to college. And she goes to Vanderbilt University. She graduates with honors. She gets her doctorate in clinical psychology from Duke University.
Wow.
She becomes the dean of the college at Middlebury.
And oh my God.
She becomes the president of Ithaca College, the first Dominican American to be president of a four-year college in the entire United States.
Wow.
Yes.
I have chills everywhere.
Yes.
Wow.
She's amazing, and she's gone on to do more amazing things. But I tell that story because it captures the idea of impact, right? Here you find a student who maybe never would have thought of going to Vanderbilt, right? Maybe never would have shown up on their radar screen, and yet she goes, and now she's a first, or she's changing the world, or she's sharing her ideas. She's building something that's making our world better for all of us. And it's that term you use, the ripple effect. One person.
Yep.
Right.
And now her impact on all the students at her college, and her empathy and her understanding and her experience.
Right. And not to interrupt you, but her mother in our video says, when Shirley became president of Ithaca College, her mother, who was there, right, seeing her daughter become president of this college, said, a girl walked up to me and said, "I want to be like Shirley."
Oh.
She said, "I cried. I felt like I had $1 million on my hands."
Oh, even more, even better, right?
Beautiful. Right? It's what you're saying. It's this woman who now is a model for so many young people.
For so many others. Well, I was saying to you, for a very long time, I was super involved with a Cristo Rey school here in Los Angeles called Verban Day, where our boys all live are very underserved communities, and we have 100% success rate that they go to a four-year college. And so we, and I think I rolled off that board maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, but we had the challenge, and I didn't know about Posse, even though you existed. We had the challenge because our boys were coming from Watts in South Central Los Angeles, and they were not staying in school because they weren't being sent in posses. And we ultimately kind of worked around, but we worked with our college recruiters, and we're saying, can you take a group of them so that they have mentors when they get there, or take some more from this class so that you have some mentorship and leadership, and so we can keep them there. And we really struggled with watching these boys who had worked so hard, and their families had worked so hard for them to get to this short-term finish line in the scheme of life, but felt like an impossible line. And then to get there and say, oh my gosh, now I'm failing my family because I don't think I can do this. I'm so lonely. I'm so isolated. I don't have anyone to help me through this. And now what am I going to let everybody down? I'm the example. And so I think about Shirley, and I think about all those kids that tried, they think they've got there, they have the brass ring, and then they just can't hold on because they don't know what to do.
Right.
And
so much pressure.
So much pressure. And these kids already have enough pressure right now. It's so different than when we were growing up. It's unbelievable, the pressure that they put on themselves too, right? Because I don't think at least I didn't put that pressure on myself, but these kids put a lot of pressure on themselves.
You think about, the pressure that your family or your sense of what you should be doing, that's a kind of pressure that we do put on ourselves. And then you think about it's compounded by the issues that young people face today that I didn't face when I was growing up. I'm 58 years old now. And so, I think about obviously politics, but look at AI and look at social media, and you think about what's happening in the Middle East and what's happening on campuses and racism. We've been facing a court system that's been rolling back civil rights and women's rights and rights for LGBTQ populations and rights for voting rights. And whatever your view is on that, these young people are looking at a world and wondering what their role will be in it
Right.
when
Right.
they're there.
And they have so much more information than we had. And so it's not always a blessing to have that much information.
Hard. It's so
We
hard.
had to go to the library and dig it up
Yeah,
and
card
check
catalogs.
Dewey Decimal System and all sorts of stuff that these kids are like,
Yeah.
let me get asking their phone, hey, who is who did this? What year did this happen? It's such a different world. But I do think that they have more pressure than we had. So obviously you are a dreamer because you can't be an entrepreneur and you can't be a nonprofit founder because every year we talk about pressure. We push ourselves. Our dream gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we start out helping one, and then it's two, and then it's 100, and then it's 12,000, and then it's right. And here we are, right? But it's it's a blessing and a curse for us, but it's a beautiful thing that we end up doing. So what's the big dream? Because keep pushing the envelope, Debbie, and it's pretty incredible what you have done. It's beyond remarkable. So what's the dream now? Like where
Well,
do you want to see it go?
we're already a national program. We operate out of 10 brick and mortar cities, New Orleans, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, big cities. We
Right.
expanded. I'll tell you just a short story. When in 2020, when the pandemic hit and we all went home, we were worried. Posse's all about relationships and team and program, and that was all in
Right.
person. How are we going to do this? And our staff, who they're amazing, they turned the program into a program that we could deliver on Zoom, right? So now we had a virtual Posse program. And I woke up one morning and I thought, oh my God, we just interviewed 17,000 students on Zoom. And I
Wow.
thought, wait a minute, we could expand our reach. If we can do this on Zoom,
Of course you did.
right? We can now open in cities that we've never been able to be in before. And so I called Arnie Duncan, right, the former Secretary of Education under Obama,
Right.
and Alberto Carvalho, who is the superintendent of Miami-Dade Public Schools. And the three of us hosted a meeting for the superintendents of cities that we had never touched: Dallas, Philly, Cleveland, Memphis, the cities that came. And overnight, the Posse Foundation more than doubled the number of cities from which we now recruit students.
Wow.
Fantastic. And we have 92 partnerships, all taking, 10 students a year, which means 920 new students a year. We're going to get to 1,000. And if you really want to know my dream is that one day I can create a fund, like a $500 million fund, which I think is doable. I really do.
It is.
Generate enough money so that I could provide grants to 100 college and university partners every year.
Wow.
And that would guarantee in perpetuity these spots for Posse scholars. We're calling it the Century of Leaders Fund. And I'll tell you why it's called that. It's called that because if every year we had 1,000 students and every decade 10,000 Posse scholars, that's 100,000 leaders for America over the course of a century. And you and I know that 10 years in a career is just a blink of an eye.
Yep. Right?
So this fund would guarantee that. It's different than having someone, donate $1 billion to their alma mater. This would be supporting 100 of our best colleges and universities in the United States. That's what I want to do before I leave. I think I can do it. I hope.
I think you can. I've been really involved with TCU and was on their chancellor's board for a decade and just rolled off. And 5 years ago, the dean of advancement, a great man named John Whelan, said, Heidi, what do you think if I raise $1 billion?
Yes.
I said, $1 billion, like 5 years ago. I go, $1 billion? What? $1 billion? Like we have 10,000 kids at TCU. We're a tiny little college. $1 billion? Well, we just had 150th anniversary in November, and we announced that we raised $1 billion. We did it. We did
Fantastic.
it,
This is
right? We did it.
it's about believing, and it's
It
about
is.
fun.
It
It's about
is. And
yes,
dreaming big and having
yes.
a vision. And he aligned it with this 150th anniversary of the school. And he said, I think I can do it by then. I think I can do it by then. And he did. And we
I mean,
did. And it
thank goodness
happened,
for
right?
those people who believed in that vision, right? And
Right.
invested in it's all right. There's this theme in our conversation about investing, right?
And having a vision and for leaders, I mean, I teach leaders, about 4,000 leaders a year, high school, college teaching, high school teaching, middle school students. And our whole thing is about a real leader has a vision, has a
Yeah.
goal, has a dream. It all starts with that. And obviously you're a leader, Debbie. There's no question
Well,
about that. But that's what propels us, because we all want, like Harry Met Sally, we want what she's having. We're like, "Oh, I want what that. I want what she's having. I want that." Whatever that is, I want a little bit of that. Because it's people want to be part of something like that and something bigger than themselves and something beautiful like the work you do, which is remarkable, which is really remarkable. So talk to me about, some of the lessons you've learned along the way. I mean, you've grown up with Posse. I mean, it's amazing to think that the kids that are graduating are the age you were when you started. Like,
yeah,
that's it's
yeah.
crazy. So
They do
talk
look younger and younger to me every year.
You and I are the same age. So,
Okay.
but
You look great.
oh, well, thank you. Thank you. So talk to me about some of the lessons that you've learned on this remarkable journey, because you've really gotten to see some of the best of humanity
Yeah.
and witness incredible things. So what have you learned in this time?
Um, I've learned that when something seems like a crisis that's going to end the whole thing, it's not, right? That you
Right.
can get through almost anything,
Yep.
and that the best thing you can do when there's some big problem is sleep on it.
Yep. Nothing. Yeah.
Right. I think you always have a better perspective in the morning. I
The
think,
obstacle is the way.
yeah, right. I think that also you need to be able to say no. And this connects to that other idea of knowing where your non negotiables are.
Right.
Sometimes it's really hard to say no. And when you're young or you're starting a new thing or you're new in your job or you just got your promotion, how do you say no? And what I always tell my team is sometimes you need to find a way to say no by saying yes to something else,
I
right?
like
And
that.
you can almost always find something else that you can say yes to,
Right. I
right?
love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Well, and I think that it's I think also when you are so young and um you want to please people when you're young.
You
You
don't want to
haven't
get fired and you don't
right. You want to make sure everybody's happy. Like and in this role, being a pleaser isn't really always. Yes, you want your team to be together, you want to be rowing the same direction, you want your donors to be happy and your board to be happy, and you want the people that you serve to be happy, but it isn't really about pleasing. It's about coming together for something bigger, and there's a difference. So I think that that's
I agree.
really
I agree with that. Coming together for something bigger and being able to articulate it. You know, this
right.
we have an idea that's very unique to Posse. Right? We are the only merit-based program in the United States that's addressing these issues of equity and
Right.
equality and inclusion and diversity. Unfortunately, we have somehow equated diversity with deficit. You know, that we must be compromising our standards or lowering our standards if we let students in through a diversity initiative. You know, we've created offices on campus to focus on institutional diversity, and then we segregate out all the students who are people of color and put them in those offices. And even though programs for at-risk and poor and minority and needy and underprivileged and underserved, these are very, very important programs. If that's the only way that we address issues of diversity, we do a disservice to ourselves, to our country, to our society, because we equate deficit then with people of color. So
Right.
Posse said, no. Let's create a merit-based program where people
Right.
win these awards on their merits. We don't screen for race and we don't screen for need. These are outstanding young people who have earned their way into this program, and we address these issues.
Right. That's well, and everything. I mean, you always want to get people to rise. It's you always want to build up, I mean, we didn't go to school to come home with F's. We went to school and parents like, is that the best you can do? I mean, you want to inspire everyone to do their best and everything. So I love that you guys are doing that in merit-based. So how do you think you've changed during this time? I mean, you've grown up with this organization that you've created.
You mean me personally or
You personally.
That's we ask questions like that all the time of our students. And, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be more like you. If I feel passionately
Don't do it.
No, honestly, I'm trying to be more mellow, right? I think it takes a lot of skill and understanding not to be reactive and not to try to push my views or my opinions on somebody else. I think I've changed. I think I'm working on it. Okay, it's a work in progress.
We are all a work in progress.
But that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Well, we're all here to learn, right? We're here for a short amount of time, and we're here to learn, and we're here to get whatever lessons we're supposed to be getting, and hopefully teach them to somebody else. And sometimes those lessons are easy, and sometimes they're really freaking hard. Sometimes those lessons are not great lessons, but I think that that's a really great lesson.
What do you think's the biggest change in you since?
Oh, look at you turning the
No,
table.
I just am curious.
I think I have become more empathetic, and I think I've become a lot more empathetic over the years. And I think that these conversations like the one we're having, I selfishly, it's my guilty pleasure, but I get to have them every week. And now I get to share them, which is so great. But I learned so much from people who give up their lives to serve others. There is such richness in the wisdom from people who live a life of service. And I feel so privileged, it makes me want to cry. And so I have such enormous gratitude. I have enormous gratitude for the privilege of having these conversations, the privilege to share these conversations, and then the wisdom that I learn from these conversations. It is literally like just the gift I give myself every week, and I hope that I give to everybody else, because it really is
Love that.
a gift.
I actually don't think our answers are so far apart.
No, I don't. I think you're right. I think you're right.
This idea of being more understanding and being more empathetic. I love your answer, actually.
I love yours.
We started a program in honor of Jeff Ubben, who was our board chair for 10 years. And he and his dad, Tim Ubben, like together, the two of them gave, $30 million, $50 million to the organization, actually. And we named a program after him. And even though we have thousands of Posse scholars, every year we pick just 5. These are sophomores who have a 3.7 GPA or higher, and they're just amazing kids all around. And we match them with the CEO in the industry of their interest. So imagine you're a sophomore, you've got great grades, and you're really engaged. We give you also a $10,000 no strings attached. And we say, okay, go spend 4 weeks with this CEO and learn everything you can about leadership. And let them teach you, mentor you. And that way you can understand what it might be like to be in their shoes one day, right? And you're a model for other Posse scholars who can see that's possible. And to the CEO, we say, look, you're not just making this an entry-level initiative, right? You're also doing it in your own office. So who's done this? Satya Nadella at Microsoft, Ken Frazier at Merck, the CEOs of Eli Lilly, Pfizer, Moderna, Metropolitan Museum of Art, Congressman John Lewis. We have senators, the governor of California. It's an amazing list. And what I love about it is it's showing these young people that people who have just made it in life, right? They're at the top of their careers. Believe in them. Right. And so much so that they invest time to say, come spend time with me.
And don't you think that when someone believes in you, then you believe in yourself? I mean, that's the magic. That's the secret sauce of leadership. And we do it at Task, the organization that I run, with our college kids, with our high school kids. It's not a CEO, but a college kid telling a high school kid and a high school kid telling a middle school student, you're amazing. You're brilliant. You're so interesting. You're so funny. You're so smart, whatever it is. And all of a sudden they believe it themselves. And that shift that you see, let alone the mentorship. I mean, obviously, having a CEO from a Fortune 500 company is incredible. But anytime we take the time to tell someone we believe in them, we will shift them forever.
Okay, so because it reminds me of a story.
Please share.
That I like to tell. And it's about believing in people. It's about allyship. It's about that making a difference. But a number of years ago, I was in a room with the CEO of Deloitte. And her name, it was a woman. Her name at the time, well, it was still her name. Her name is Cathy Engelbert. And she was speaking to 50 Posse alumni, just about her life and her career. And one Posse scholar raised her hand and she said, well, you're a woman and you're a CEO. How did you do it? How did that happen? And Cathy said, well, I'm going to tell you how. You need to know 3 things. 1, you need to work really hard. 2, you need to find great mentors. And 3, there needs to be someone who will pound the table for you. And let me tell you what I mean by that, she said. I worked hard and I had great mentors. But there was this one executive who, when the door was closed, would say to his colleagues, have you thought about Cathy Engelbert? You know, Cathy's pretty amazing. Cathy's great. Cathy's outstanding. Cathy. And Cathy became the CEO of Deloitte, not because of that person, but in part because of that person.
Right.
And I say that story because of what you just said, Heidi, right? That we have all had, whether we realize it or not, someone who's pounded the table for us.
Right.
But more important is we can pound the table for someone else. And that's what you do. And that's what I do. And if we all did that, even just for one person.
That's right. And I think that the people look to people like you, people like Cathy, people like me, and say, I don't know how to make a difference. And you just told everybody exactly how to do it in 3 simple steps, or Cathy did. But that's exactly how you do it. Just one kindness, one belief in another person, lifting one person up. That's all it takes. It's just, at the end of the day, it is that simple.
Right.
It is that simple. Thank you so much. Tell us where we can support you, donate, get involved, nominate people, all the great things. Posse Foundation, tell us how we can be a part of this incredible organization.
Well, we have a great website, possefoundation.org, right? We spell it Posse, foundation.org. And you can donate there, right? Or you can send a check to the Posse Foundation at 14 Wall Street. But you can also volunteer. You can help us interview students. You can volunteer to be a career coach. You can become a member of one of our boards. You know, obviously, we need funding. We have to raise $35 million a year. And it's amazing because it supports thousands of students, and it helps us leverage the scholarship dollars that we get from the universities. In fact, for every dollar that someone donates to Posse, we leverage 5 times that amount in scholarships from our university partners.
It's a good ROI, Debbie. It's a good ROI.
There you go. So that's how. Thanks for asking that. I appreciate it.
Well, everyone listening, I'm sure, wants to go and follow you on social media and go to your website and learn about this. And I hope that these conversations really just make people think and empower them and make them realize that they have the tools to make a difference in their world. And it can be as big as Posse, or it can be as small as being kind and telling someone you believe in them. But either way, it's
100%.
hugely significant. And thank you, Debbie, for making the world so much better. I'm just so grateful for you in this conversation. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed it.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. And I'm so grateful to you that you invited me to come hang out with you. And next time, I'm hanging out with you in Los Angeles.
Hey, that I can't wait. I can't wait. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Charity Matters podcast. I truly enjoyed talking to Debbie about what it takes to start a business that really changes people's lives. I think her comment about learning to say no by saying yes to other things was absolutely brilliant. To learn more about modern day heroes like Debbie, or if you'd like to reach out to us, visit us at charity-matters.com. or connect with us on Instagram at Charity Matters. If you enjoyed our conversation, we would love it if you shared it with your family and friends. And please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. But more than that, thank you for caring, for believing in goodness, and for being a part of our movement. You're exactly what the world needs more of. Remember that together, we can make a difference. One small act of kindness at a time. Charity matters.